It's basically impossible to thread a needle with woolly nylon without a needle threader, and you're gonna need woolly nylon to make cycling shorts or jersey because it's much stretchier than your basic spun polyester. It is absolutely imperative that you test out your machine after you thread it with a different type of thread, because you will probably have to change the tension. This looks terrible. I'm gonna go tinker with this and make it look good. All right, I think I finally got it. What I'm doing right now is hemming the pocket. Next, I am assembling the pocket and parts that go underneath the pocket and underneath the pocket. As weird as this sounds. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out which is the front and the back because they're different shaped. And this is what we want it to look like. So the fabric that I'm working with has a texture that's a little bit like bathing suit fabric, which is quite slippery and hard to work with a little bit. So it's imperative to like constantly check to make sure that you're actually getting all the layers captured. And also, it's really hard to take out woolly nylon because it always wants to stick to itself. So basically, you really don't want to have to redo anything. And also, it's hard to do it right the first time. So have fun with that. But the good thing about fabric that has so much stretch to it like this is that it can be a little bit forgiving if you end up trimming a little off or whatever. Whatever you gotta do to make it work, man. Next up, I'm sewing in the front part of the bib to the front part of the shorts. It's a very curved seam, so we'll see how good it looks. Next up is the crotch seam. One of the motivations I have for making my own bib shorts is that I seem to have a really hard time finding bib shorts that fit. It always seems like they're designed for someone who's like, I don't know, my size in the leg and much bigger in the waist, or like someone who's my size in the waist and slimmer in the leg. I don't know. They're built for people who are top heavy. I always like when I buy them, I always have to like adjust the top half. I mean, I can't really make the legs any wider, so I have to get legs that fit and then like shorten and tighten the top. Whatever. A curved and pointy seam like that is possibly one of the most difficult things to sew like ever. But a technique that I learned actually from making like V-neck t-shirts is to pin like to have these like the centers line up, but like the point and the V don't like touch. They have the seam allowance overlap or whatever, and then like push them against each other or whatever, and then pin a little to the outside of each one. I used to work in a garment factory. We made a lot of t-shirts. Anyways, then just this little area, I'm gonna go with the straight stitch machine just to hold that in place before I serge it. I am definitely not using woolly nylon on my straight stitch. It doesn't really work that well for this. It just doesn't. So I'm using regular thread. And I am using like a regular size sewing stitch, not a basting stitch, even though this is technically basting. All right, and when I get to the exact point, pivot. I often leave the pins in, just be very careful going over them so you don't hit them with the needle. And take it out of the machine, take the pins out, and check to make sure that it is centered, which it looks like it is. So go me, yay! I'm back at the serger and I'm gonna start at the point. I think that just helps keep it a little bit pointier. And I like to hold the fabrics together to make sure that they are where they're supposed to be, matching up with the other pieces, etc. Since I'm on the other side this time, it's imperative to make sure I don't have any of that trapped in there. I don't have any more of this light blue fabric. Absolutely none. I used every scrap of it somehow. Which means I better not fuck up. Because I don't think I can get any more of this. This is from years ago. How did it turn out? I'm pinning the side panel to the seam that's closer to the front of the bib shorts, and the reason that I'm pinning it is just because this piece is like kind of weird and I don't want to forget what's going on, etc. And it's also very helpful in making sure that the pockets are where they're supposed to be. Make sure that they're caught in the seam. Otherwise, what's the point of being a pocket? And it's not a pocket anymore. It's just flapping if it's not captured. So that's what... It's weird. I'm pinning it in place. It's weird, but I'm doing it anyway. Why would I not make bib shorts? I wear them multiple times a week. I like to start at the bottom of the leg for this particular seam, because then when I go to do the pocket, I don't have to worry about the pocket like getting bunched up, etc. I just start at the bottom and work my way to the top until it's done. Threads all over. Let's see how it looks. Alright, I got that whole pocket captured in that seam. Whole pocket captured in that seam. There's blue fuzz floating in my tea now. Just for fun, this is actually a tag that I cut out of something that I made for myself a while ago. And I'm reusing it because there's nothing wrong with the tag. So why not? And I'm putting it actually on the outside of the, like, back up towards the top neck edge. And the reason I'm putting it on the outside is because I don't want it to be prickly or interfere in any way with my cycling. It's not because I, like, am so proud of my brand. I want to show it off all the time. That's Michael. He has me put tags on the outside of stuff for that reason, but I'm doing it, and this is gonna get covered out in public when I wear a jersey anyway, so I mean, I could say, like, why bother putting my tag in there at all, but you know, why not? At this point, it is a little bit of a complicated monstrosity to try to think about, because this is the crotch where the padding is going to be, and then this is the hem, and where is it? Over here, there's another hem. Yeah, so it's a little bit complicated to think about, but this is what I'm doing next. This is the hem. Well, it will be the hem eventually, because it will be turned up as such. There are circumstances where a zigzag is preferred over a cover stitch, and this is one of them. The hem allowance that I added to this pattern is 2 inches, and therefore we want the strips of elastic in that 2 inches, ideally one close to the fold but not peeking out, and the other close to the edge of the fabric but not so close as to impede the hem. For the first strip of elastic, I line up the edge of the fabric with the 10mm line on my machine and set up so that the silicone part of the elastic is outside the foot. The zigzag stitch is set to 2.0 length and 3.0 width. Then I stitch the other side of the first strip. The second strip is set so that the foot lines up with the edge of the first strip and the silicone is still outside the foot. I am using the zipper foot. Then the last set of stitching is on the other side of the second strip. I did a little test here to make sure that my cover stitch machine was working properly. I only have 5 cones of this thread, so I have to, like, switch back and forth between the machines. I put pins in the hem to hold it in place, as well as I put tape over the silicone elastic, because that makes it go through the machine a lot easier. That way the silicone isn't trying to stick to the machine. So I'm gonna get on with the stitching of the hem. Being very careful, of course, to try to take out the pins before I get to them. Although, since I have them, like, down here, it's less of an issue because they're also covered by tape down there. And I'm gonna keep checking periodically to make sure that I am, in fact, stitching over the edge of the fabric and not too far in or too far out. If you don't have a cover stitch machine, it's actually completely okay to do this with a zigzag. I have a video about how to do a basic hem on a cover stitch machine if you would like to watch that. That will go into a bit more depth about what exactly I'm doing right now. Now I'm putting in the little insert that goes in the bottom of the leg, and I'm serging it in, and it is absolutely imperative that we line up the stitching line and not necessarily the edge of the fabric. Otherwise, it won't line up at all. And yes, thanks to the silicone elastic, I do have to actually pull to get it to go through. I didn't put tape on it because if I rip the tape off, then there will still be tape underneath the serging, and I didn't want that. I thought it might be uncomfortable when I wear it. Did I achieve? Oh, yes. Yes, it lines up. And now, of course, the last part of the main body is the final side seam. To make sure that the insert lines up with the hem, of course, again. And of course, since there is the pocket here, it's important to make sure that all the bits line up. And if I have to trim off this little 1/8 of an inch here or whatever, I will do that because I want my pocket to actually work and not be, I don't know, non-functioning because it's just flapping. Definitely don't want it flapping in the breeze. Okay, so now that we're free of the silicone elastic, that's past the machine now. It'll run much smoother. Hold the tops together to make sure that they stay together. So I'm not got a bunch of like excess up at the top. We don't want that. Definitely don't want that. So hold the tops together. Because if there's any like little excess on one side or the other, this is a super stretchy fabric, so we could just like ease it in. Still, of course, holding the tops together. Huzzah! All right, trying it on. This is gonna be the back of the bibs. Okay, so this will actually be like, you know, the elastic going over my shoulders and whatnot. So this is gonna stand up. And this is the back view, which I can't see right now because it's behind me, but I'll look at the footage later. And this is the front view. I still have to do the binding and the elastic, obviously, but I wanted to try the legs on to make sure that they fit before I start closing things up. And I think they do. I think they do. Pockets. Yay. Let's get a closer view of the leg elastic. All right, so this is what it looks like. And this is the inside. I gotta trim some threads. There's my insert. So there's that. I measured out the edge of the shorts that I am going to bind, and it came out to 56 inches. And just how wide is this fabric? 60 1/4. So I'm gonna cut one strip, then it's gonna go all the way around and it's gonna be great. And then I need like another little strip for the back of the neck, and I should probably cut yet another little strip just to do like a test first because my binder is a little bit finicky. Perhaps it is a sign that I don't use this enough that I don't remember what size it is, but okay, so 32 millimeters. I don't know if you can see that or not, but whatever. 32 millimeters is 32 millimeters is about 1 1/4 inches. So that's how thick my binding is going to be. I wasn't that far off when I guessed 1 1/4 inches because it's 1 1/4 inches. work to do on making sure this works. Take 2. I almost had it and it stopped working. It ain't great. Fuck this. I'm gonna destroy this thing if I keep trying this and it doesn't work. I'm gonna use a zigzag stitch and I'm gonna bind it on the straight stitch machine. The zigzag is fairly stretchy stitch, so I'm not too worried about it like ripping or anything. I mean, I'm literally going to be using the zigzag stitch to put in the chamois pad, so if the collarette binder worked, it would be so much faster than doing this, but it doesn't, so I'm not doing that because it doesn't work, and I don't know why it doesn't work. Probably defective user. But I don't think I can like sew and rip out anymore without like destroying what I've already worked so hard on. I put the pins in, I don't know how much it really needs it, and I'm gonna line up this little like edge of the foot with the edge of the binding fabric. I don't know how necessary the pins are, but I did it anyway. And the zigzag that I'm using is a width of 3.0 and a stitch length of 2.0. So I'm not using the full size zigzag, I'm using a sort of a medium size zigzag. So it mostly worked. It is stretchy enough, but it's a little, like, I'm not going to take it out. It's structurally sound, but it's just a little wavy, wiggly, and I could have done this better. So I'm going to do it better on the other binding, and I switched to the zipper foot so that I could better line up this, so that the zigzag would be a little bit closer to the edge and it wouldn't be quite so, I don't know, funny looking. This is where it gets interesting because I have to try them on in order to determine how long I need to make the elastic. So I will be right back. Alrighty then. Here we are with the bibs on. I have the back of them. And yeah, I need to decide how long I need to make the elastic. So here we have the elastic, and I'm going to hold it up to the edge of where it's gonna attach to the fabric part. And where is it gonna attach? Down here. So I have one teeny tiny little slight error here, and I think that if I were to put the elastic right on top of that, then I wouldn't have to take it out and no one would see it and it'd be great. So how far from that? Because I could just hold it on the other side. I really could. Okay, so here we are on this side now, matching up the fabric with the elastic, and I think I want it to be like just this edge is just covering it, because it is kind of far to the side. So that's what I'm gonna do, which means that my elastic needs to be that long. So I'm gonna cut that, and I'm gonna cut the other one to match. I'm going to just use a straight stitch to attach the elastic to the body. Make sure it lines up nicely. Don't have them unmatched. Given how stretchy both of them are, I don't think that should be an issue. Then let's cut these. Let's snip these threads off. Don't need those. Then I'm gonna switch to a zigzag, the same zigzag that I used on the binding, and I'm gonna stitch this down. Using the zigzag, because the zigzag stretches pretty nicely and will also cover the edge of the fabric, making it not fray so badly. Alright, I have the tops of them attached. Check to make sure that the elastic is not twisted. I have it pinned in place here, and I'm going to zigzag again. Trusty old zigzag. The edge of the elastic is lined up with the edge of the binding, of the edge of the garment, and I'm going to zigzag so that it goes like over, just over the edge. Flip it over, and I'm going to press this down so that this matches the edge of the binding. And I'm going to zigzag through 2 layers of elastic and 4 layers of binding and 1 layer of garment body, whatever. There's a lot going on here, but I am doing it anyway. That's the outside. That's the inside. Don't forget to measure the distance between the edge of the elastic and the center of the bibs. I like that the chamois comes with instructions. It says here, the rear is wider than the front. Anybody who's ever seen cycling shorts knows this, but I'm really glad they idiot-proofed it. I have further increased the idiot-proofness by drawing a little chalk line where the inseam would be if I had one. The instructions say to measure from the center of the front 4 inches down into the pad. So I'm gonna I guess stick a pin in there. Okay. And this is where the intersection of the inseam and the crotch seam, so right there, that's where it should go. And obviously you want the front facing the front, so I'm gonna stick my finger down in here and poke myself in the finger with the pin so I know it's in the right spot. And then stick the pin back up through there, I guess. Hold it in place for now. I do know that the fabric should be pulled nice and tight because it's gonna have to stretch. And that's all there is to it. So there's that. And I'm gonna pin center front. It does honestly look a little bit funny to have like so much in the back, but like that's actually where you're gonna be sitting on it, so we kind of need all that padding back there. Okay, so the next thing to do is to line up this side notch with the side seam, or what would be the side seam if we had one. And it is important to make sure that it's pulled nice and taut. We definitely do not want any wrinkles, ripples, bubbles, etc. underneath there. That could be so bad. Don't do that. Make sure it's pulled nice and taut. The instructions say to lay the back of the chamois on the back of the short and then drop the chamois down 1.5 inches so that there is a slight bubble in the pad. So 1.5 inches is about that much. I'm sorry, I only have so many hands. I don't know if I could do this with a ruler. I guess I could measure maybe now, but I can't because I don't know where it was. I only have so many hands. Okay, we're doing our best here. Okay, so now that all 5 of these are pinned, all 5 of these points are pinned, I am going to stretch the fabric between the points and add pins. Add more pins. That didn't work. I'm going to repin that. That should be more secure. Okay. I almost wonder if this would be easier to do on the inside. No, we ain't doing it. Nope. I'm probably going to end up having to fast forward through this section anyway, because I'm sure it's really, really boring. I'm sure nobody cares to watch me pin for several minutes. You just want to watch 7 seconds of me pinning. Starting to come together now. I just want everyone to know that it specifically says to use a zigzag. Just so you know. I want to make sure that it's truly centered. So I'm going to start near the center because I want it to be centered. Blah, 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 blah. That's what I got to say about that. So here we are at the back, almost at the center. Take my time doing this because I want it to look good. And here, we do have to pivot just a little bit. If you like what you've seen so far, make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss part 4, in which I wear them on a ride and then evaluate how well I did. Did it work? Is it worth it to make my own? I will discuss this in part 4 of the Cycling Bibs saga. How does it look? Completely unacceptable. There is a little bit of puckering here. I'm gonna have to take that out and fix it. Other than that, the rest of it looks pretty good. I'm just gonna have to fix that little area. So I'm gonna do that. Be very, very, very careful picking out stitches, because this area already gets a lot of abrasion. So the less picking at it we can do, the better. Okay, let's redo this.